Hello, everybody. We're back again with the Old Bear's Den of Bigfoot, and you got the old bear, and I got some helpers this time around, and they're going to help me with this
The
account,
questions.
and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you listen to it and get something out of it. So we're going to turn it over to my narrators. There's two of them tonight,
Mm.
and so what are we doing now?
Mm.
Do your little introduction there that you was going to do. Can you do it? Okay, old bear. I know you got an encounter, a very special encounter for us this evening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming out of which state?
Missouri.
Missouri.
Pray. Ask him. So what happened in Missouri?
What happened in Missouri?
Well, evidently, this bow hunter, he found a place that he's been hunting for years, and in this place where he's been hunting, he has a really nice buck picked out that he's wanting to hunt. Well, another one of his buddies got into bow hunting and he's never shot a deer yet. His entire time that he's been hunting for about 2 or 3 years. And that amount of time, he never ever harvested a white-tailed deer. So his buddy decided he was going to put him in his favorite stand. And when he stuck him in his favorite stand, something really strange happened. And it turned out to be a bad thing.
But what happened?
Well, what happened was the first day of the Missouri archery season, he had his buddy get in his tree stand. Now, it's a ladder type stand, and it's 18 feet up.
Wow, that's tall.
So his buddy's in the tree stand. He gets up there and he puts a safety harness on, and he attaches himself to the tree via a lanyard, which attached to the safety harness. And he's sitting there before daylight, and his buddy helped him get in the stand and everything. And what happened next was his buddy left and went to a different stand and a place of his own choosing, which wasn't very far from his friend. Once he got in the stand, he was in there and it started breaking day. And the next thing that happened was his buddy, he texted his buddy, and his buddy said, "No, I haven't seen a thing yet," because he asked him if he'd saw any deer yet. And he told his buddy to stay in the stand until at least 10 o'clock. Because that certain buck that he was wanting his buddy to harvest was coming through right after daylight. Anything else you want to know?
Mm.
Well, how big was this buck?
It was a 10-point whitetail. Had nice tall tines and a pretty tall rack.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah. Well, what happened next was when he was sitting in a stand, not the guy that has, that's been hunting this probably for years, but his new bow hunting buddy, he's sitting in a stand, and right after daylight, after it got good in daylight, he's looking around and he don't see this this buck coming through, and that's when he's supposed to come through. Well, he heard a big limb go crack.
Wow.
And he slowly stood up in the stand and turned around and looked and couldn't believe his eyes at what he was looking at. About 20 feet behind his tree, there was this 8.5, 9 foot tall, hair covered creature staring at him in the stand.
Was it a Bigfoot?
Yes, it was a Bigfoot. And what happened next was this Bigfoot walks right straight to the tree.
Whoa, that's
That-
scary.
Yeah, that the stand was in. And then he's in the stand. Now he's attached to the tree, not the stand. Well, the Bigfoot, he's scared, so he's standing there like a statue. And the Bigfoot grabs the stand, and it's a metal aluminum type stand, and rips it off the tree.
What do you got to say about that? I wouldn't want to be in that tree, would you?
No. What happened?
Well, now he's attached to the tree, and when the Bigfoot ripped the tree stand down, his lanyard, which was attached to his body harness, pulls him back to the tree and slams him into the tree. And his legs go numb. He can't feel his legs.
I bet that didn't feel good.
No, I don't think so. So at this point, he starts screaming, and his buddy that's 100, 150 yards away gets out of his stand and starts running towards where his buddy's in a tree stand. He's thinking he shot this buck and it's ran over there and fell over dead. But that ain't what happened. That Bigfoot is standing there underneath of him, trying to reach up and grab his leg, when his buddy comes along. And his buddy has a handgun on his leg, at his hip. And he pulls it out and he shoots in the air, and the Bigfoot turns around, looks at him, and then turns back around and takes off running out of there because he's got a gun. He then goes over to the tree where his buddy's hanging by his harness and hollers at him and says, "Hey, what happened?" And he sees the tree stand laying on the ground. And his buddy tells him, "I can't move. I can't move my legs. Something's wrong with my back." He then goes out of the woods to get help. He goes down and makes a phone call. And the paramedics show up, and a couple of game wardens show up, and a state trooper shows up. Now they go in to where this guy's at, and they get him out of the tree and put him on a backboard and take him to the hospital. Well, the state police that was there and the game warden saw the tree stand. They knew right off the bat that it didn't fall out from underneath of him. So they get to the hospital, they go and contact his wife, and his wife shows up at the hospital. Well, she stays there all night with him. And they question the buddy that put him in that tree stand, what happened. He says, I don't know. And he didn't tell anything about seeing this 8.5, 9 foot tall creature and shooting his gun off to scare it off.
Do you think that they believed him?
No, they didn't. And what the state police did is they took the guy that put him in a tree stand and made him go back to where that tree stand was at later that afternoon. And what happened was they started questioning what happened. Finally, after everything was said and done, he had told them what happened. They took him back to the hospital to where his buddy was at. And the police and the game wardens told him not to go back there at all. And the next day, the guy that was in the hospital, his wife, went home. And when she went home, the front porch and the steps going to the front porch, were crushed. There were boards on the porch like something had stood up there and stomped on them and crushed them.
You got any questions? Like, what do you think did that? What do you think might have done it?
Probably a Bigfoot.
Well,
You
let's
think
see.
it could have been the same one?
Yeah.
It was.
Knew it.
When she got there at the house, she called the law and they come up there and looked. Well, the narrative that the cops were telling her and everybody else that it was a biker gang or someone that didn't like him and beat him up and hurt him.
Wow.
So at this point, the police are trying to cover everything up. So they put a security detail with her. She goes in, gets her shower, gets changed, and goes back to the hospital. Well, the day after that, she wanted to go back to the house to get him some stuff that he needed. They wanted to get him some personal items, like shave cream and a razor and all this stuff. And meanwhile, he's starting to get some feeling back in his legs. But it's tingling. His legs are tingling the whole time. And when she went back to the hospital, she had a state police officer that escorted her back. And while he was waiting on her to go in and get all the stuff and her to change and all this stuff, he saw something run up to the side of the house. And it smacked the side of the house. Well, that trooper got out of the car and went around to the side of the house to see what was going on. And when he did, this thing charged at him.
Wonder how scared he was.
He was scared enough to shoot almost empty a clip out of his handgun. And it didn't faze the Bigfoot.
Did he hit it?
Evidently he did, because they found some blood.
How much times did he hit it?
They're not sure. But he emptied a 9mm, which they're issued, and it holds 12 or 13 rounds.
That's a bunch, isn't it?
So, when the Bigfoot got shot, it ran over, and whenever he was changing the clip out, the Bigfoot smacked him. And he gets on his radio, and the radio's in, "Officer down, I need assistance."
So he was hurt.
And the Bigfoot took off running away. Well, they got there and done an investigation and took her away from the house. Took her back to the hospital. And they put a security detail on her, and anywhere she went in the hospital, those officers were with her. Because the narrative was it was a biker gang or some bad criminals that were trying to harm this guy. And after this, the officers, somebody made a phone call to somebody, and they were told not to talk about it. The officer that got smacked was taken to the hospital, and in no uncertain terms, he was told not to talk about it when he was in the hospital. Well, the next day, some very dark, black-collared vehicles showed up, a car and a van. They don't know who was in these vehicles because they didn't have a license plate or nothing. People around there had saw those vehicles. And once they found some blood there in the yard at the house, they tracked this thing. Couldn't find it.
So these black vehicles showed up at the man and woman's house?
Yes.
Okay.
And then they couldn't find this Bigfoot. So it got dark and they disappeared again. The people in the black vehicles left. They didn't know where they were, didn't know where these people went to. The next day, those vehicles showed up again, the same two, at the farm that this guy was in the tree at. And they tracked this Bigfoot down.
Oh, they tracked it down.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But what happened next after they tracked it down?
Well, they evidently, that Bigfoot is no longer around. They think they may have either trapped it or they may have shot and killed it. Nobody's for sure.
Forgot what I was gonna say. Forgot.
you forgot what you was going to ask? Okay. So was there any more than one Bigfoot around there ever?
They don't know. Nobody has been back there or anything, so. But that's all the information I had on that account.
Scary,
So what'd you
huh?
think, buddy?
Good.
Was it a good one? Did you like it? Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude this video about a Bigfoot in Missouri attacking a bow hunter in a tree stand. I hope you enjoy it. Be careful out there. May God bless each and every one of you. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.